Mahiro and Hasuda rushed into the castle because Hasuda had caught the scent of Nyaruko and Thuko coming from that direction. When they arrived, they found Maruko and Thuko preparing to fight. Nyaruko told Mahiro and Hasuda to step back since she and Thuko needed to settle their discussion with fists. Thuko said that this was her destiny together with Nyaruko. Mahiro asked them to finish things quickly so they could go home and have dinner together. He reminded them that his mother's croquettes tasted way better than the ones he made himself. After that, Mahiro and Hasuda left to find Yoriko. Thuko mentioned that Mahiro was a good person. Hearing that, Nyaruko agreed and added that Mahiro was also her husband. Thuko said that growing up felt like sadness, and if Nyaruko had something she wanted to protect, it might also bring her downfall. They clashed using their powers. Thuko threw a strong punch, but Nyaruko dodged easily. Nyaruko leaped forward and kicked Thuko, but Thuko blocked it. Nyaruko admitted that Thuko was indeed a tough opponent. Thuko then asked if Nyaruko had changed, but Nyaruko replied that she didn't need to change in order to defeat her. At that moment, Nyaruko thought that if she lost, she would have no other choice. Thuko secretly admitted to herself that she never truly wanted to fight against Nyaruko. Nyaruko tossed several photos and claimed they were pictures of herself in a swimsuit. Distracted, Thuko lowered her guard and Nyaruko used that chance to land a solid blow, leaving her powerless. The photos Nyaruko had thrown were actually pictures of Mahiro. She quickly picked them back up and demanded that Thuko explain why she was siding with Louis. Thuko then declared that the loser should accept punishment, admitting her defeat. She spoke dramatically about giving herself up to Nyaruko, but Nyaruko was confused by this and insisted she had no intention of doing anything like that. Thuko pleaded to be treated like something disposable, asking Nyaruko to make sure she would never be able to step outside into the sunlight again. Shocked by her words, Nyaruko slapped her, telling her to stop with that kind of talk. Thuko admitted that the slap hurt, yet she reacted in a way that made Nyaruko even more frustrated. Nyaruko pressed her to reveal the real reason she had sided with Louis. Finally, Thuko whispered something into Nyaruko's ear that left her completely surprised. Meanwhile, Mahiro and Hasuda kept running until they reached another room. Together, they pushed the door open and found themselves inside what looked like a laboratory. Yoriko greeted Mahiro, but Louis asked if their arrival was meant to disrupt her plans. Mahiro demanded that she return his mother. Louis then asked if Mahiro would hand Yoriko over to Hasuda in exchange. Confused, Mahiro turned to Hasuda, but Hasuda had no idea what Louis was talking about. He explained that his father had only ordered him to find Yoriko. Louis was convinced that Hasuda was trying to steal hardware information from her company. Mahiro became even more confused, but then Yoriko pointed to a device in front of her, saying it was a game console. Louis explained that with the help of many housewives, her company would gain the upper hand in the console wars of the next generation. Mahiro realized in frustration that Louis had not kidnapped his mother for plutonium, but only because of video games. He was annoyed that the whole thing wasn't what he had imagined. Suddenly, Thuko came crashing down from above and Nyaruko landed in front of Mahiro. She explained the reason Thuko had betrayed them. Thuko was actually a devoted fan of Louis' company's products. To show her respect, Louis even called her Queen, which embarrassed Thuko greatly. Nyaruko explained that the game console from the Tholu company was called Suth, named after a star that Tholu had once come from before arriving on Earth. Louis revealed that Hasuda's father was a member of the CCE Council, bitter rivals of her own company. CCE stood for Carcosa Computer Entertainment, the developer of the HS3. Hasuda looked completely lost, unsure if his father really had anything to do with that, but Louis was convinced he was only pretending not to know. Louis declared that with Yoriko and Thuko on her side, her company held the winning cards. Mahiro finally realized that this was all a console war. Louis announced that their new machine, the Suth 731, would allow users to experience virtual reality by sending data directly from powerful servers into their brains. It had 3 times the specs of the HS3, unbeatable graphics, smooth controls, and downloadable content designed to reduce distribution costs. She claimed it was perfect. Hearing this, Thuko became so excited that she couldn't wait to buy one herself. Louis asked Yoriko what she thought about the peak technology of their company's latest project. To her surprise, Yoriko suspected that it might actually fail. Louis was shocked to hear this. Yoriko explained that based on the history of gaming, it was true that consoles with lower specs usually lost out. The higher the specs, the more expensive the production costs became, which made it hard for developers to release many games. On top of that, game stores made their money from selling games, so if they couldn't sell enough titles, just selling the console alone would never work. Louis then asked about Yoriko's promise to help her company, but Yoriko admitted that she never said she would. Louis was stunned to hear that. Mahiro asked what the real reason was for his mother showing up there. Yoriko replied that she was simply curious. Nyaruko laughed and said it was time for Louis to return Yoriko. Louis refused, saying that Yoriko did not belong to Nyaruko. Naruko then transformed into her true form, which frightened Louis. Just as Naruko was about to strike, Louis's phone suddenly rang. Naruko allowed her to pick it up. It turned out to be a call from the company's CEO, asking about the progress of SOF 731. Louis confidently reported that the project was going smoothly and almost finished, but the CEO informed her that SOF 731 had already been cancelled. Mahiro asked what was happening. Louis explained that SOF 731 had been pulled from the gaming industry, the project department was shut down, and she had been fired. Hearing this, Kuko burst into tears. Mahiro turned to Naruko, asking what they should do. Suddenly, Louis started laughing. She said she would never give up, and for her, this was far from over. She reactivated SOF 731, determined to prove its power so the CEO would accept it. As soon as Louis pressed a button, the entire room transformed into a new dimension, and several deep ones appeared before them. Louis was stunned since the office was supposed to be a restricted zone where outsiders could not enter. The creatures surrounded them. Naruko asked if Louis had summoned them, but she denied it. The creatures tried to attack Mahiro and Hasuda, but Naruko quickly kicked one away with full force. Hasuda speculated that the console might be transferring data from their brains into the game, letting them experience it as though they were inside it. Mahiro asked Louis what kind of game was running. Louis explained it was an action game where players turned into zombies and attacked humans. The creatures rushed toward Mahiro and Hasuda, but Yuriko swiftly threw a fork at them. In an instant, the monsters were paralyzed. Yuriko asked Louis if it was alright to eliminate them, but Louis begged her not to, since they were only hypnotized and not acting of their own will. Yuriko agreed and switched to using stun forks instead. With incredible speed, Yuriko threw her stun forks one after another, disabling the entire swarm. Mahiro was astonished and wondered aloud if his mother was showing some kind of special battle mode. In no time, Yuriko defeated all the creatures. Mahiro even remarked that there was no need for Naruko to transform since his mother had already taken care of everything. She insisted that she still wanted to deliver a dramatic victory by taking down the mastermind behind all this. Louis pleaded with her not to destroy the console, saying it was the result of her hard work and dedication, but Naruko argued that it was too dangerous to let it exist, and that her transformation gave her more than enough reason to deal with it. Just as Naruko was about to move forward and destroy it, Thuko stopped her. She asked Naruko to let her do it instead. Thuko admitted that she truly loved Xuth, and if it had to be buried, she wanted it to be by her own hands. Naruko refused, saying she wanted a grand scene of destruction, but Mahiro intervened, telling Naruko to stop. Thuko apologized to the console, tears streaming down her face before finally smashing it to pieces. At that moment, Louis collapsed, devastated that her technology and research had been completely destroyed. After everything, Mahiro and the others returned to the beach. Mahiro felt foolish, while Yuriko seemed delighted simply because she had gotten to touch the console. Mahiro couldn't believe his mother would say something like that, especially after all the worry he and the others had gone through for her. Naruko mentioned that she would leave the matter to the Cthulhu Corporation, so the Planetary Defense Organization would not have to get involved. Thuko continued crying over the console, and Mahiro was confused why she was still mourning it. Hasuda gently told Mahiro that she was heading home and would ask her father not to involve Yuriko any further. Hasuda held Mahiro's hand and quickly said goodbye. After she left, Mahiro mentioned that Hasuda seemed like a strange girl. Naruko agreed with him and admitted that she had a bad feeling about Hasuda. The next day, Hasuda enrolled in Mahiro's school, something Naruko had already suspected. Tamao asked about Hasuda's connection to Mahiro since Hasuda used the Yasaka family name. With a shy face, Hasuda admitted that Mahiro was someone very important to her. Naruko immediately grabbed Hasuda by the collar, clearly upset by her words. Thuko, however, encouraged and supported Hasuda. Takahiko told Mahiro to be patient with all of this. One day, Mahiro and the others went to the beach together. Naruko invited Mahiro to swim since the water was so pleasant. Earlier, Yuriko had given them tickets to a hot spring resort she received from one of her customers. Naruko was excited about going together, but Mahiro wasn't interested because he still felt exhausted after what happened in Roria. Yuriko insisted that he needed the hot springs to recover, especially since there was also a beach there. The ticket was for 8 people. After counting, they realized that including Shantak, they had 6 people, so they could invite 2 more friends. Naruko suggested Tamao and Takahiko. Mahiro intended to skip the trip, but Thuko and Naruko insisted he had to come. Suddenly, Tamao approached Mahiro and Takahiko. She wondered why Mahiro wasn't doing anything. Mahiro admitted he didn't feel like joining. Then Naruko and Hasuda showed up and pulled Mahiro along to play with them. Tamao began to wonder who Mahiro actually liked. Takahiko didn't know either and asked Tamao if she joined the trip because she was curious too. While everyone was playing, the group lifted Mahiro onto an inflatable float. Naruko thought of it as a chance to create special memories with him. Thuko wanted to use the vacation to experience a happy family-like time together with Nyaruko. Hasuda simply wanted to use the trip to grow closer to Mahiro. From a distance, Tamao watched and suspected that Nyaruko, Thuko, and Hasuda might be having playful but mischievous thoughts about Mahiro. Later in the evening, they all went to the hot spring. The boys and girls had separate baths, but Nyaruko didn't allow Hasuda to bathe with Mahiro, so Hasuda joined Shantak instead. While soaking, Nyaruko thought about wanting to present the best version of herself to Mahiro and cleaned every inch of her body carefully. Thuko had a similar thought, wanting to do the same for Nyaruko. That night, while Mahiro was asleep, he suddenly woke up to find Nyaruko sitting on top of him. She had gotten a little too close and started teasing him, making Mahiro panic. Thuko was also restless, wishing she could be closer to Nyaruko. Hasuda and Yoriko were asleep and dreaming, softly calling Mahiro's name. Nyaruko kept trying to express her feelings to Mahiro. He tried to stop her, but Nyaruko insisted on showing him how much she cared. Just as she leaned in to kiss him, Mahiro screamed loudly. That night, Nyaruko went to Mahiro's inn and tried to express her affection for him. She started taking off her clothes and kept teasing him, even getting close as if she wanted to kiss him. The next morning, Mahiro opened the window and enjoyed the beach view in the early sunlight. Takahiko called out from outside the room, inviting him to join for breakfast. While at that moment, Nyaruko was still tangled up under the blanket with forks that Mahiro had used to keep her away. After finally managing to free herself, Nyaruko rushed to Mahiro, who was already eating with Takahiko. She complained that Mahiro had been cruel to her, but for Mahiro it was Nyaruko's fault for keeping him awake all night. Nyaruko explained that what she had done was simply an expression of her love, but for Mahiro, it was nothing but troublesome. Soon after, Tamao came over and asked what they were talking about. Mahiro said it was nothing, but Nyaruko boldly announced that she and Mahiro had spent the night together. Nyaruko continued teasing, saying Mahiro had been passionate and Mahiro urged her not to make up lies. Nyaruko claimed that what happened the night before was not in vain because she was carrying Mahiro's child. Tamao wanted to confirm if that was true, but Mahiro strongly denied it. Nyaruko added that she felt something moving in her stomach. Tamao almost believed it, and even Takahiko congratulated Mahiro. Hearing the news, Hasuda was devastated and burst into tears before running away. Nyaruko happily said that if the baby was a boy, she wanted to name him Mahiro, and if it was a girl, she would call her Nyaruko. Surprisingly, Yoriko also got caught up in the atmosphere. She said she could not wait to have a grandchild from Mahiro. Mahiro reminded her that she was the one who forbade him from dating Nyaruko, but Yoriko now allowed it, saying she believed Nyaruko was not a bad girl. Nyaruko was overjoyed at Yoriko's approval, though Mahiro's mother admitted she would not easily let him go. Mahiro asked her to reconsider, but Nyaruko got too excited and suggested marriage and children since they now had Yoriko's blessing. Yoriko reminded Nyaruko that high school relationships should remain as they are. Even so, Nyaruko believed that once parents had grandchildren, they would support the relationship even more. Mahiro was baffled at how his mother could not see Nyaruko's cunning side. Nyaruko declared herself as part of the Yasaka family, and both Tamao and Takahiko congratulated her. She then tried to get Mahiro to kiss her as a sign of young love, but Mahiro refused completely. That morning, Thuko was still fast asleep, dreaming of mischievous things. Meanwhile, Mahiro went to the beach, still shocked at how Nyaruko could come up with such unbelievable stories. There, he noticed Hasuda sitting quietly with a gloomy expression, something unusual for her. Suddenly, Hasuda said she was willing to love the child Nyaruko claimed to have, and she even asked Mahiro if they could raise the baby together. Out of nowhere, Nyaruko appeared and pushed Hasuda into the water. Mahiro was surprised and asked why she did that. Nyaruko explained that Hasuda was about to get hurt on the rocks, so she had to push her into the sea instead. She then urged Mahiro to come along, saying their true story was about to begin. During that time, Nyaruko stuck closely to Mahiro, which made him visibly uncomfortable. He even ran away and hid behind a beach umbrella. Nyaruko kept calling out his name, looking for him. Mahiro felt so troubled, wondering why he had to deal with such strange behavior. He realized he could not relax at all until they went home. As he walked further, he accidentally bumped into a building and found Thuko there, playing a game. Mahiro then thought that maybe he could leave Nyaruko with Thuko to free himself from her. He asked Thuko where she had been during breakfast. Thuko admitted that she had been waiting for Nyaruko, and strangely enough, she found some satisfaction in waiting for her alone. Mahiro asked if Thuko liked old games and she was playing one there. She replied that she did like old games, but no matter how many she played, it could not fill the emptiness in her heart after being left by Xof. Mahiro realized just how much Thuko cared about Xof. Seeing her sadness, Mahiro gently patted her head and encouraged her, saying that good things would eventually come. Thuko thanked him for the kind words. Not long after, Louis suddenly showed up and asked what Mahiro and Thuko were doing there. After that, Mahiro and the others went together to Louis' takoyaki shop. Nyaruko asked Mahiro where he had gone earlier, but Mahiro only wanted her to stay away from him. Thuko asked Nyaruko for a gift since she had been waiting for her all this time, but Nyaruko admitted that she did not have any. Louis then shared that ever since that incident, she felt more free and open to trying other things, as if she had been released from something that once held her back. She admitted that she was not good at cooking, and the only thing she could really make was takoyaki. She invited everyone to try some, and when they did, they were surprised at how delicious it tasted. Mahiro noticed that Hazuda had not touched her food, so he asked why. Nyaruko explained that Cthulhu and Hastur were never truly at peace. Louis apologized to Hazuda for what happened before and told her that she no longer worked for Cthulhu. She also said she held no grudge against Hazuda's father's company, reminding Hazuda that in that moment they were just takoyaki shop owners and customers. Hearing this, Hazuda thanked her and finally ate the takoyaki, finding it really tasty. Mahiro then noticed a drawing of an alien creature inside the shop. He could not stop imagining what kind of ingredients might have been used to make the takoyaki. But everyone else was confused since it tasted so good. Nyaruko offered Mahiro her share, but instead he tapped her on the head with his skewer. After they finished eating at the shop, Nyaruko suggested going on a date-like walk along the beach together, or maybe shopping for souvenirs, since there was a shrine festival nearby. She even suggested that she and Mahiro could pray together for their safety. Unfortunately, Mahiro ignored her invitation and instead asked Takahiko to come see the coral with him. Seeing Mahiro walk away with Takahiko, Nyaruko tried to stop him. But Mahiro then invited Takahiko to join him in a game of watermelon splitting. Nyaruko interrupted, saying she would smash the watermelon with her correct kick. Later, Mahiro invited Takahiko back to the inn to play cards, but Nyaruko joined them and suggested adding her own special rules. Mahiro grew frustrated and asked why Nyaruko always followed him. She was surprised by the question and said that to her, the two of them were like a pair of young birds. Mahiro, however, compared their relationship to her tearing his wings apart and patching them back on again. Nyaruko then said they were like two trees growing together, but Mahiro answered that sometimes part of a tree had to be cut away because it was damaged. Nyaruko finally asked if it was possible that Mahiro simply did not like her. To her shock, he admitted that he really did not like her. Hearing this, Nyaruko fell silent, unable to believe what he had just said. Later, Mahiro and Takahiko went swimming in the ocean. Takahiko asked if Mahiro was really okay saying something like that to Nyaruko, while Nyaruko sat off to the side looking downhearted as she replayed his words in her head. Hazuda noticed that Nyaruko's condition seemed to be declining. Mahiro insisted to Takahiko that they should just leave Nyaruko alone, convinced she would be fine. At that moment, Thuko tried to remove Nyaruko's clothes and Mahiro quickly stopped her, asking why she would do something like that in public. Thuko explained that she only wanted to kiss Nyaruko, but Mahiro told her it was not appropriate to do such a thing out in the open. Thuko argued that since she and Nyaruko were aliens, those kinds of rules did not apply to them. Mahiro grew upset at her response and challenged her to a fight. Yoriko then stepped in and stopped them. She asked Mahiro if he realized how wrong he had been, especially since Nyaruko had saved both him and Yoriko before. Mahiro finally understood. He rushed to Nyaruko and apologized, admitting that he had lied earlier. He confessed that he actually liked her more than the slices of daikon radish and sashimi, and even more than egg whites. Kamau was grossed out by the way Mahiro expressed his feelings, so Yoriko invited her and Takahiko to a nearby shop, giving Mahiro some space to speak with Nyaruko properly. Mahiro then asked Nyaruko if she would come with him to visit the souvenir shops near the Shrine Festival. After being quiet and distant the whole time, Nyaruko's face finally lit up with a smile when she heard his invitation. Meanwhile, Thuko felt frustrated even though she really wanted to date Nyaruko. Hazuda also felt upset because she wished she could live together with Mahiro. Yoriko reminded Thuko and Hazuda not to interfere with Mahiro and Nyaruko. At that time, Nyaruko and Mahiro were walking together at the festival. Nyaruko looked so excited as she held Mahiro's hand. At first, Mahiro asked her to let go, but he didn't want to upset her again, so he let it be and decided to accompany her wherever she wanted to go. Seeing this, Nyaruko smiled with relief. They went around visiting stalls, buying snacks, playing shooting games, and eventually stopping by a cafe. Inside the cafe, Nyaruko ordered a couple's drink that came in one special glass. Mahiro didn't understand why they had to drink from something like that. Nyaruko explained that it was common for couples, but for Mahiro it felt embarrassing. Still, They shared it together. Afterward, Naruko invited Mahiro to visit a shrine since there was also a festival happening there. When they arrived, both of them prayed. Mahiro wondered if someone like Naruko, who usually acted like a reckless hunter, ever truly prayed at a shrine. Naruko smiled at him, leaving Mahiro surprised. Once they finished praying, they walked around to see the festival stands. Naruko said the festival reminded her of the one she had visited the previous year. Curious, Mahiro asked whether space also had festivals. Naruko explained that in space, there were festivals twice a year. Oban and New Year, both held at the Ariake Space Coliseum. She then bought fireworks so she could light them together with Mahiro. Meanwhile, Mahiro and Naruko lit the fireworks near the beach. The sparks weren't very visible since the sun was still bright, so Naruko leaned closer to Mahiro to block the sunlight. She said that even though the fireworks couldn't be seen clearly, they were still beautiful in her eyes. Mahiro asked what she had wished for when praying earlier, since she seemed so serious at the time. Naruko just smiled and told him it was a secret. In truth, her wish was to always stay by Mahiro's side. Mahiro couldn't understand why she prayed like that, but Naruko only smiled again. Mahiro then suggested they should head back since it was already time for dinner and the others were probably waiting. Before leaving, Naruko asked if they could take a different route back to the inn. Mahiro agreed, which made Naruko so happy that she immediately held his hand again. She told him she was really grateful because her dream of walking along the beach at sunset with the person she loved most had finally come true. Mahiro was taken aback by her words, and Naruko worried she might have sounded strange. But Mahiro explained that Naruko usually acted noisy and bothersome, so it was unusual for her to be this quiet. That was why he found it hard to believe her whenever she said she loved him. To him, Naruko always seemed like she was joking or doing silly things. Naruko admitted that if she kept acting goofy, it would be hard for her to say how much she truly loved him. But her feelings were real, and she wanted to keep saying them again and again. After that, she smiled and told Mahiro once more how much she liked him. That day, Mahiro was about to go out with the others. He still couldn't stop thinking about what Naruko had said yesterday. She told him that she really liked him. Naruko seemed extra excited that morning because she was tagging along with Yoriko to shop and look for some rare items at a small local store. Mahiro was curious about what Naruko was up to this time. Inside the shop, Naruko and the others started picking out little souvenirs being sold there. Mahiro glanced at her just as Takahiko asked why her face had turned so red. Naruko had spotted an old game console, around 20 years old, still in good condition and selling for a cheap price. Mahiro, on the other hand, couldn't shake the thought that he was the only one worrying about something bigger. By chance, Hazuda also noticed the console and mentioned that it didn't look normal. Naruko pointed out that it resembled the Crystal Wonder Swan. They decided to try turning it on. The next thing Mahiro knew, he woke up in his own bed at home the next morning. Confused, he thought to himself that he was supposed to be at a hot spring. Yoriko called out to him using the term daughter instead of son, which startled him even more. She reminded him that she had already called him several times to get up and that he needed to hurry or he would be late for high school. Mahiro wondered why his mother was acting so overbearing. On his way, Mahiro realized something strange. He didn't see Naruko or anyone else. At the street corner, he accidentally bumped into Naruko. Mahiro quickly turned his face away after unintentionally catching a glimpse under her skirt. Naruko got even more flustered, called him indecent, and cried that now she couldn't get married or fulfill her dream of becoming the queen or the next dragon priestess. She ran off in tears, leaving Mahiro standing there, completely lost about what was going on. When he arrived at the school gate, Mahiro ran into Thuko. She seemed unusually caring toward him, even fixing his crooked tie. Mahiro had no idea why her attitude had suddenly changed like that. Later at his locker, he met Hazuda, who now seemed more energetic and sporty. That surprised Mahiro too, because Hazuda's personality didn't usually come across that way. In class, he saw Takahiko, who even offered to share information about the girls around him. Shortly after, Tamo greeted Mahiro. He asked her if she hadn't changed like the others, but Tamo was puzzled and didn't understand what he meant. Takahiko went on about his observations of the girls close to Mahiro, but Mahiro couldn't make sense of any of it. Suddenly, Louis showed up and pulled Mahiro aside, saying she had something important to talk about. She brought him to the student infirmary, where she explained that he was trapped inside a cursed dating simulation game called High School Dokidoki. That's when it clicked. He and the others had been pulled into the game console back at the store. Louis admitted she was accessing the game from outside and revealed that Mahiro and the others had been assigned roles as characters within the simulation. That explained why Naruko and the others were acting differently. Although Louis wasn't sure what caused this, she did know one thing. If Mahiro reached a happy ending with someone, he could escape the game. Mahiro was shocked to hear that, but Louis insisted it was the only way. She explained that his possible choices were Naruko, Thuko, Hasuda, and Tamao, and in the end, he would have to become one of their boyfriends to clear the game. Mahiro was especially confused about why Hasuda was included. Lily warned she couldn't stay much longer and urged him to be careful, admitting even she didn't know what might happen inside the game world. What Mahiro didn't realize was that Naruko had been hiding under the bed the whole time, overhearing everything. She was thrilled that Mahiro finally knew what he had to do to get out. At the same time, Thuko was eavesdropping near the door and came up with her own plan to pair Mahiro with Hasuda so that she and Naruko could focus on eternity together. Unexpectedly, Hasuda was also watching from outside the window. She felt that the role the game had given her didn't suit her, so she decided she would have to act more boldly as long as she remained in the simulation. Each of them now had their own strategy for escaping the game. Mahiro couldn't believe he was being forced to go through a dating simulation like this. Naruko soon spotted him and called out, speaking to him in a much softer tone than usual. But Mahiro quickly realized she was just playing into her assigned role. When he confronted her about it, she denied understanding what he meant. He was already frustrated with her behavior, but Naruko happily invited him to move forward to the next stage together. The next stage took place during swimming class. Out of nowhere, Naruko shouted that she was going to dive and asked Mahiro to give her mouth-to-mouth if needed. Before anything could happen, Thuko rushed in and tackled Naruko. Just as Kuko leaned in closer to Naruko, she cried out for Mahiro to save her. Tamao mentioned that Mahiro was carrying Hasuda, who had fainted, to the student infirmary. Hearing that, Naruko felt irritated. Meanwhile, Mahiro was still staying by Hasuda's side in the infirmary. Hasuda thanked him for helping her and Mahiro picked up a thermometer, surprised to see that Hasuda did not seem to have a fever. Hasuda then held Mahiro's hand and told him she wanted to share a special bond with him that day, even saying she hoped one day to have a family with him. Hasuda leaned closer as if she wanted to act on her feelings, but in that instant, Mahiro suddenly found himself transported into a classroom. Suddenly, Thuko appeared and said that she was tired after observing things through static-like visions. She explained that her scenario was to scramble data with her powers and gather information by watching closely. Out of nowhere, she drew her sword and said she wanted to test Mahiro, believing that Naruko's reaction would be interesting. Thuko quickly lunged toward Mahiro, but he managed to dodge her. Just as she was about to strike, Mahiro once again shifted into another place. He wondered if this was the next sequence of events. This time, Naruko was in the room. She prepared to sing a song for Mahiro and asked him to listen. However, before she could start singing, Mahiro grabbed her guitar and tapped her lightly on the head, stopping her performance. In the next scene, Mahiro and Naruko were working at the Darlith restaurant. Naruko asked what he thought about her appearance, explaining that it was the perfect atmosphere for her to strengthen her feelings for him. She encouraged Mahiro to do his best together with her.